Chris Cuomo here. Welcome to NewsNation, where common sense comes first. Did you know that today is Thomas Paine Day, also known as Free Thinkers Day? Talk about timing. For this occasion to fall on a day when we saw a Senate hearing that was the absolute opposite of common sense that Paine pushed for. My mother would say, il destino, it was destiny, that we get to refocus based on one of the great minds and what we saw today. In both parts of his magnum opus, his great work, Rights of Man, written after the American Revolution, Thomas Paine railed against political parties as a threat because of exactly what we keep seeing and what we saw today, that they would seek advantage for the few at the expense of the many. Here we are. As Paine noted, these are the times that try men's souls. My point is not that Bobby Kennedy Jr. should not be scrutinized. He's not a perfect pick for HHS secretary. It's fair to say he's a highly controversial pick. He has said things about the government's COVID response and vaccines and alternate treatments that play great for the fringe thinking sold by some pod people, but these ideas often conflict with science. They warrant scrutiny. But he is the pick of the president, and the president has the exclusive power in the Constitution to nominate cabinet secretaries for a reason. And he has ideas, Mr. Kennedy, that resonate with many in this country about our food and our testing and the role of government, and people backed him and they backed the president for wanting him. He's also a Democrat, and that's a pleasant change from party uber alles. Now, is that what today was about? Not really. Yes, the Senate has a check on the president's power and must offer advice and consent, which has been interpreted to mean they should vet nominees' credentials and their ideas for what they want to do with their position. But that's not what today was about. This was about one party saying the other party sucks worse. And Kennedy was basically the monkey in the middle. On the right, they were just bowing to Trump.
I have found my engagements with you, both behind closed doors in my office, as well as listening to you publicly, to be very thoughtful and science-based. I applaud that. I thank you for that.
I don't know if you remember when you called me up and you were contemplating setting your political differences aside, joining forces with President Trump on an area of agreement, addressing chronic illness, trying to find the root cause of all these problems facing this nation. My first response was, Bobby, this is an answer to my prayers.
I have no doubt that you will be confirmed and you are going to do such a solid job for the people of this country. I look forward to seeing you help make us healthy again.
How? How? I get that you like him. I get that you're afraid not to like him. But how? Don't just sit there and say, I'm good with him. I'm good with him. Mark me on the list. Their loyalty is supposed to be to you, their constituents. But instead, they're just playing to the head of their party. Both parties do this in these stupid sessions, especially with Supreme Court justices. The whole process is a sham. But today, you got to see it ugly and obvious. The left were insistent on virtue signaling and showing that they still don't get why they lost.
The receipts show that Mr. Kennedy has embraced conspiracy theories, quacks, charlatans, especially when it comes to the safety and efficacy of vaccines.
Did you say Lyme disease is a highly likely militarily engineered bioweapon?
I probably did say that.
Did you say that?
And that's what the developer of
I
Lyme
want all
disease
of our
said.
colleagues to hear it, Mr. Kennedy. This matters. It doesn't matter what you come here and say that isn't true, that's not reflective of what you really believe, that you haven't said over decade after decade after decade, because unlike other jobs we're confirming around this place, this is a job where it is life and death.
Now, you just said that you want the American people to know you can't be bought, your decisions won't depend on how much money you could make in the future. Will you also agree that you won't take any compensation from any lawsuits against drug companies while you are secretary and for 4 years afterwards.
You're asking me, Senator, you're asking me not to sue pharmaceutical companies. Yeah, you are. That's exactly what you're doing.
Health. Look, no one should be fooled here.
I mean, again, the point is, vet his ideas. Go after the conspiracy theories. Why did he say it? Why does he see differently now? God forbid somebody change their position out of something other than convenience. Now, I'm not saying that there wouldn't have been weaknesses, but that's not what they were trying to do, especially Senator Warren, okay? And look, you know, there have been questions about her, how much money she was worth when she came in. Now she's worth a lot more. How'd that happen? How'd that happen? So, you know, I was there when Elizabeth Warren was first introduced to the national audience. I was at ABC. She was brought in as a fair broker in the recession of 2008 about the bailouts and the big shots and TARP and TALF, and she was great at that. But now she's just playing the game. And here's why I say that. How can she be so angry at Kennedy for parsing a position on something as common as making money after when he's done serving, when she has a history of fudging on a position that actually mattered?
My papa had high cheekbones like all of the Indians do. Being Native American has been part of my story, I guess, since the day I was born. The message I hear from Indian country is one of resilience and hope. Now, before I go any further in this, I want to say this. Like anyone who's being honest with themselves, I know that I have made mistakes. I am sorry for harm I have caused.
Right? Because she was exaggerating. I got high cheekbones, too. I'm not Indian. This is why Trump mocked her as Pocahontas, which was classless, by the way. But the point remains. She's no one to come at Kennedy for like kind of saying something at one thing when it worked and then changing it. It's called politics, let alone in this high dudgeon. Have some shame. But of course she won't. Why? Because there's no shame in the game. The senator was going for her moment, and guess what? I just gave it to her. Okay? I just hope the moment stands for what we need less of, because today was more proof that all that matters is what these people do not. Look, here's the truth, okay? Energy is being spent on the wrong things because it's what they've been rewarded for, all right? We already see here early on, we're making the same mistakes again. Everything Trump says, they pick it apart. They pick it apart. What's his motivations? What it's really about? Now, if you just focus on what is done instead of what these people say, everything becomes clear if what you want is to fix. Trump has now had to pull back on halting funding after messing with money for the neediest, Medicaid in different states. Why? It's easier to disrupt than it is to fix for the better. And now he's going to have to explain and likely pull back from halting the observance of MLK Day, which he celebrated on the inauguration day, which fell on the same day, Holocaust Days of Remembrance, Pride Month, other historical annual events. Why? Because the DIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency, had a DEI office called the Agency's Special Emphasis Programs. And that office oversaw the observance of these holidays. And now that Trump stopped funding DEI, these have been affected. Oh, but he didn't mean that. But that's the problem with going too fast and trying to make a big deal and focusing on hype instead of what actually helps. Same thing with the J6 pardons. See, if you just let him do things, you'll see what works and what doesn't. There's no reason for all of this noise that only suits the parties, not your interests. Same with the raids, okay? Now, Trump's ICE raids have racked up over 5,500 arrests in the last 7 days. That's good, right? Everybody's celebrating it. It depends. Who did they get? And they're being too closed about the answer to that question. Sure, ICE and the Trump White House put out posters showing the scary immigrants they've arrested, you know, one here, one there, showing the crimes that they've committed. But by the way, we've seen arrests of bad guys in every administration, okay? They're arresting more now, but I don't know that they're arresting a lot more bad guys. They just have higher numbers. Look, in Florida today, local cops caught Chinese traffickers. It happens. I get that it needs to happen more. But it's what you don't see in these ICE arrest numbers that matters, too. How many of these migrants were charged or convicted of a violent crime? Is this just rank speculation? No, there's a recent report that found that of the migrants arrested on Sunday by ICE, the day the number of the arrests greatly increased because Trump was frustrated that numbers were too close to what Biden's numbers were. About half of them had not committed any crimes other than crossing the border. Now, I know that there are some of you who will say, well, that's enough. It's not enough for me. The idea that all illegal entrants are the same, I do not agree. And I think these people matter to communities, to the economy, to the country in ways that are not all negative and are in fact being greatly discounted in the name of law and order. Now, you may disagree with me. That's fine. You must still see we're not a few raids away from a real fix. Same with the idea of sending them to Guantanamo Bay. Again, I get it. Guantanamo Bay, ooh, that's strong, right? Scary place. How many can they hold there? He wants to put 30,000 people there. They just had a report that said the migrant operations there have a capacity of 130. He wants to round up millions, right? Does that really sound like a feasible solution? No, it's hype. Now look, it is good for the president to take steps on common concerns. I'm not criticizing that, but how he does it matters also, and that should be the focus. That should be the obsession, right? Because it's an illusion that Trump can fix immigration alone. He has to get Congress to act on what the people doing the job on the border ask for most. Address both parts of the problem, illegal immigration, which is the easy part, by the way, and legal immigration, which is harder. Why? You've got to have Congress for that. Rule changes on asylum. What is economic distress? What qualifies when it comes to crime? What should be done in home country? How do you set up those deals? They need more resources for staff, to police, to detain, to process, to hold. Doubling or tripling their capacity to hold and deport after they process, as well as finding ways to allow people who are here right now doing the right thing to stay and be protected and be able to pay taxes and contribute, especially dreamers. We are not a wall or a raid away from a system that gives us what we need and protects against allowing what we don't. And the men and women in power would rather fight about who's more to blame for this problem than fix it, even now. Another reason to watch the walk more than the talk is all this drama in the first couple of weeks is a distraction from the main concern. What was the #1 election issue for left and right? If you're listening to people now, they're saying immigration. It was important. It was more important than I've seen it in any recent cycle, but it wasn't #1. The economy was, specifically cost of living. And Trump can't wave a wand or sign away prices, and he knows it. That's why he's focusing on this. It's hard, and it takes Congress and time, and that's why he backed away from the quick fix he campaigned on. People can keep telling you that if we drill and pump more, fuel prices are going to come down, and then prices will come down because transportation costs of goods will come down. Do a little research. See how few economists and experts think it's that simple in light of all the other factors that go into prices that Trump ignored during the campaign and now gives credence to when he says bringing down prices is hard. Same with tax cuts. You had more money in your pocket during Trump, right, in the first term. But remember why? It wasn't a tax cut. It was a really robust economy that he got from the Obama administration and the pandemic checks. So, look, he can halt funding. But what he really needs to do is cut spending in areas that matter, not just for culture war issues. Will he? I don't know. We'll see. Let's see what he does and what the effect is. Hype versus help. Thomas Paine called for common sense to blow away the smoke of political party infighting and interests. These are the days that test our souls. Demand action on what matters. Demand better ideas. Let's discuss the state of play. Hey, thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your screen. And don't forget, click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.